Guess what, guys? Today we're unboxing another power station. Now, a lot of you have been asking for larger power station options. So today, this company right here has sent us this so that we can unbox it and review it and check it out. And I can give you guys a few little pieces of feedback, and then we're going to take it on the road and really put it to the test. As you can see, I've already taken the top of this off, and it was pretty well packaged. It was in like 2 layers of cardboard, and then right here on the top, we actually have a little packet with all of the cords, I assume. So we're about to dig into this, but first, let's go into what's below this. And as you can see, I am at Basecamp, and I have a couple of guests here, so maybe we'll get them to help us with this demo. Okay, so Riley's with us, and she's actually going to be removing this part of the foam. And then as she does, it's nice and snug in there. And there's the power station, again, wrapped up in plastic so it can't get scratched up. And already I am seeing that this is a big one. Okay, so it has handles on the side, so you grab one side, I'll grab the other. And, not as heavy as I thought. Okay, this is it right here out of the box. And it actually looked like it was gonna be a bit more hefty and heavy, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, we picked it up pretty easily. And so now let's look at some of the interesting features. Starting off with the corners, they have like a silicone cover to them. So if you bang them into things, it's going to be less likely to harm the power station. There's these 2 handles that we picked up on, which was so handy and definitely good if you're traveling by yourself because you can get a good squat handle on these. And so it'll be easier to move. And then up here, we look like we have a wireless charger, which I have been really excited when power stations have this. You can simply lay your phone on top and it will in fact charge. So that's pretty cool. But let's look to see what features we have here on the front also. This is their E1500 Pro unit. And you can see here, there's 2 little DC chargers on the front. They both have these little covers. So we're gonna get into those a little bit more in the near future here. We also have an AC input. We have 3 AC outputs. We have here a DC output that also has a 12 volt with, again, a cover. You guys know I really like covers. I think that that just adds to the quality overall. Then we have our USB section right here. And it looks like there's a variety of different USB charging speeds and also sizes. So 100 watt, an 18 watt, an 18 watt, and then we have these 3, which are all 5 volt 2 amps. So lots of different options for charging. The big test is, did it come charged? Let's find out. Click a couple buttons. Nothing seems to be turning on. Okay, actually, after playing with it for just a second, I in fact did turn it on, and it was just like a quick toggle there. It's at 46%, so it came to us with what is, according to this, 133 hours of working ability. But of course, we're gonna put this to the test. I probably will go ahead and charge this the rest of the way though, just so that we can start it off and see exactly what it does. So after that happens, I'll get back to you guys and we'll plug some things in and play with it for a few minutes before it goes in the van. Now, in order to do that, we have to get into this little carrying case. I really like this. Anytime a company sends something to keep the items in, it is so handy because then you don't have to worry about losing them. This is clearly branded and also matches the power station. So it'd be easy to find this in the van and be like, yeah, that's the right cord, especially considering I travel with more than one power station. And inside here, ooh, we have all the bells and whistles plus some. Let's look at these a little bit more because I see something that looks like, yep, these are actually jumper cables that you can run off this battery. Okay, sure enough, these are in fact jumper cable ends, but there's a few other things in here also. We have our standard plugs, of course, the one that we're gonna be plugging into the wall here at Basecamp while we're here. This is just a super simple, easy plug and play. And then inside here, we also have what looks to be a standard plug-in for whenever you are wanting to use solar, and then also one to hook directly into the van to the 12 volt system. So easy, simple, and lots of interesting options here. But I'm very interested, more so than anything, in this one. This is the first battery I have ever received that has this attachment to go with it. So of course I'm going to be reading the book a little bit more and then talking to you, but for now let's use this cord here on the top and get this bad boy topped off. It's 46%, and we're going to be timing to see how long it takes to get it the other 54% all the way to the top. Just for reference, according to my clock, it is 11:15 and it is about to go on the charge. In order to charge this, we will be coming into this input right here. So it'll plug right in. And one-handed is always hard. Let me use my other hand and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that's it right there. And then it just sits. And actually this is kind of nice because the plug cover also serves as a little rain flap. So if it were to have some moisture, it would keep it from getting directly onto the plug, which is kind of cool. Don't plan on charging this outdoors in the rain, but if for some reason it did get a little bit of a sprinkling and a dusting of something, it would be fine. It would be fine. And now we're going to plug it into this standard wall plug here at Basecamp and immediately come over here and check it out. It usually takes it a couple seconds for it to start registering that it is in fact charging. And whenever it does, it should tell us the watt input here. In fact, we're going to go ahead and take this little thing off. And wow, that is an interesting looking display right there. That is very different. But as you can see, it is pulling in 1,064, 1,058, and this should go pretty quickly. Okay guys, we have only been on, as you can see there, it is now 11:19. We have already gone up to 48%. Now, one of the things I did notice, and I'm gonna stop talking so you can hear it. Do you hear that? The fan definitely kicked on to this one very quickly, but it's pulling in a massive amount of watts, so I really assumed that it would. It's not necessarily that it's going to come on while we're using it, but definitely while we are trying to pull that power in, it will. So we'll just keep looking to see if it continues to make that noise throughout the charging process, and then when we use it, we'll see if it turns on and off. And wow, we've already gone up another percent. This is crazy fast. Okay, it is now 11:31. As you can see, not much time has passed, but this guy over here is already at 67%. This is wild how fast this charges on a regular wall plug. Now, I did dive a little bit further into this, and there's some information in here that I want to show you. Okay, so this is the book, and you'll see here recharge time. There are 3 different sections. The wall charge is the fastest of the recharges with 1.5 hours to fully charge this from dead to fully charged. Then you have the electric generator, and it says it takes about 1.5 hours for that one too. I don't have an electric generator, so this wouldn't be an option for which I am charging my power station personally. However, the car charger I would be using, and because it is a slower charge, it would take about 18 hours to charge with that. Now, right now we're pulling about 1,147 watts, and it just keeps kind of cycling through up and down. But with that coming straight out of the wall, we of course are going to have more power than we would coming off of the alternator of the van, and then also off of the solar panels. Speaking of which, there's actually a solar power charging time here also. The average person is going to want to charge this with a minimum of a 200 watt panel, and then in constant sunlight, it's going to take 9 to 10 hours to charge it from dead to fully charged. But you can actually put these in series with more panels and get a much more aggressive jump to this. In fact, if you can get up to 800 watts plugged into this, you could have this charged in 2 to 2.5 hours in direct sunlight also. Now, most people aren't going to come around with 800 watts of solar panels. However, if you do have that much, this thing is going to go super, super fast. Now, while we have the book out, let's go ahead and look at a few of the other specs. There is a really nice diagram in here that tells you each of the outlets and how they kind of work and what you can plug into them, but also it tells you about the specifications for each section of the power station. For example, right here, it is a 1,450 watt hour capacity. It has a lithium ion battery, and here is your charging time. So your charging time, again, we just went through with the different devices. There is an over voltage protection, which means that this, much like some of the other power stations that I have tried, if you plug something in that will not work with it, it will just automatically turn it off to make sure it protects the battery. That is a big, huge plus for us. And then also it has an overheat and overload protection also. So that means that you can't melt this thing down because it's going to take care of itself before you do that, which is, again, super awesome. Now, the temperatures for ideal use are also stated in here, as well as the overall dimensions. And as you can see, I've got this on my countertop right here. It's not super large. In fact, it is 14.8 inches by 9.4 inches, and it is 10.6 inches tall. So you're looking at a nice brick rectangle right here. Last but not least, we have the overall net weight, and it actually weighs 33.1 pounds, but I will say, whenever we picked it up a while ago, I didn't feel like it actually weighed that much. It was kind of a little bit of a chunk to get out, but after that, it was pretty easy to maneuver. Now, the book is really great about telling you how you can wire up your various solar panels in series to get the most bang for your buck, and then also talking to you about how the different cables would work. So if you are a novice when it comes to solar, this is really going to be helpful, and I would definitely keep this book in this little container just for the long haul, because this is so handy. This is telling me some things that I have never actually done before as well, because usually I just use one panel per power station, but this is showing that I could network them all together and get a much faster result. And so this is super handy. Also, as we're kind of going through, there's a whole facts section that tells you a little bit more about how long it can last and some of the more popular questions. Right here, how do we calculate the E1500 Pro running time? It has a little formula here that you can do that with. It also asks below, can you use the E1500 Pro indoors and charge it indoors? Absolutely. In fact, that's what we're doing right now. And then here we also have a couple of other questions. Can it be used as UPS? And it says that it supports UPS function with an automatic switchover after 8 to 12 hours. Of course, with every battery, there are going to be a few warnings. This one is also not without warnings. It says we're not supposed to place it near your heat source. So don't put this directly next to your heater in your van. It's very bad if you do. You're also not supposed to fully immerse this in liquid. So if you do drop it in a lake, it's not going to work anymore. Sorry, guys. It's also not going to be safe to go and retrieve it. You're not supposed to be using it whenever you're in a strong static electricity or if for some reason you do ever need to dispose of it, though, they do have the actual disposal instructions, which a lot of companies do not place this inside. I really like this because even though we're going to be able to get well over 1,000 cycles with this to 100%, and after that unlimited as it slowly cycles down, we're eventually going to have to dispose of it, and now we know how to do it correctly. Of course, that's only some of it. There's a lot more in the book, and I always encourage you to get in there and just dive in and read it before you really use it, especially considering that we're charging it right now. You have some time, so just do it. Okay, guys, interesting development. We got to 80%, and then we started hearing this cut on and cut off thing. See, it just cut on, and then you heard it again, and then it drops. So as of right now, at 80%, it's like trying to power itself off from charging, which is pretty strange. This is why I do the hard work for you guys, so we can see if this is normal or if we can see if this is not going to be so normal. So what I think I'm going to do is actually let it do this for just a little bit and see if it gains any. And if it doesn't, I'm going to move it to a different plug to see if the plug is an issue, just to give it a fair shake. Okay, I moved it to a new location to see if it was the outlet. It seems to still be doing it. So that is kind of strange. I'm just going to leave it plugged into the wall for a bit and see what happens. But this has so much promise, but at the same time, this is strange. Okay, guys, so since it's been a little bit crazy and it's not getting past the 80%, I went ahead and I reached out to the company directly. So I sat down here at my laptop, shot off a little email, and we'll see how long this takes to find out a bit more, because I don't feel this is probably typical for this, and it could have been damaged in transit. So we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We will know something soon, though. For the time being, we're waiting on the email. Okay, guys, so kind of an update. I'm kind of keeping you all in the loop as we go. I sent out an email because it kept cycling off, and so I unplugged it for a minute, and then it's still, you can probably hear it making the clicks, and then it goes down to like 0 watts that it's pulling. But as you can see, it is in fact charging again. So I'm not sure why it does this. It's different than any other power station that I've tried. So this is kind of different, but at the same time, we're going to keep letting it go and see if we can't get it up to 100%, because it is in fact building again. And again, I'm not sure why it cycles the way that it does. It could be that it's pulling so many watts, because it is very different than the other power stations I've used. But we'll see where this number goes. I had a little bit of a gap in time before I replugged it in, so I plugged it in probably at about 2 o'clock. And so it's been going for about 19 minutes since I plugged it back in. So we'll keep that in mind, and we have about 11% to go, so let's see how long it takes to get there. Okay, it's 2:27 now, so let's go do just a little check. I know it hasn't been very long, but this thing keeps cycling, so I'm very curious as to what it's doing. Okay, so you'll see it does in fact keep cycling. It's like it's in an endless cycle of cycling. And so it goes up, and then after it hits 90% now, it turns back off for a second, and then it keeps just kind of going through this loop. So I do think that in fact something is off with this. I'm going to give them about 72 hours to respond to an email, because they did send this to me for testing, just to kind of see if this is something that might have happened in shipping where it's kind of gotten out of whack, because that can happen. But if they haven't responded within the 72 hours, I'll go ahead and post the video, and then we'll just do a follow-up whenever I do hear back from them. But I'm hoping that in this video we can have a good update, because this charging ability is awesome. So awesome. And all of the outlets, this could be super beneficial, especially for a larger, like, industrial feeling power station. But we have to be able to charge it. So we're crossing our fingers right now. It did go ahead and finally stop the cycling again. It made it to 100%, and we're still pulling in a little bit of power. So even after it's fully charged, it's still pulling in. So it's probably topping off as we speak. Again, not completely sure about why it was cycling the way it was. A little weird, but at the same time, that's not going to stop us from testing it. So let's get to testing it. Okay, now that we have it all charged up, I brought it back over to the countertop here, and we're going to check out a few different things. One thing that I already am noticing about this particular power station is there aren't buttons to turn on each individual section. Okay, we're going to start off with the gold standard of heat sucking power right here. I picked this up because it will in fact run off of a power station that is 1,000 watts or more. It helps me to warm up my van. It's just a small heater. And so I figured, what better thing to use than something that's going to demand a lot of power right out the gate. So all we do to use this is just plug it into one of these little outlets, and then we'll hit this little switch and see what happens. Okay, lining it up, in it goes. And then we're going to hit the power button. And, well, what's happening here? Nothing is happening. Okay, so just plugging it in directly, it did not start to work. So what's going on? Okay, upon closer evaluation, these little buttons right here are actually DC and AC. It's just very hard to see them because they are very lightly scratched onto the key. And so at the perfect angle, you can see it. But otherwise, just from the front here, it just looks like a button that controls the LCD. So what we're going to do is make sure that these are actually turned on. This is the AC. And as we're looking at the display, nothing's really changing on here. But let's see if it changes anything as I hold down the button. There it goes. So it is a slow hold. So just hold down for about 3 seconds, and then it will in fact power on the AC. Then after that, we turn the button on and we have heat. So heat is actually coming out. You can see it's using quite a bit of watts right here. And if we were to continuously use this, it's going to show you how many hours that this will go at this current draw. Now, because this is one of the biggest devices that I carry, we know that we're going to get the least amount of use out of the power station for this device because it is heat related. Anything heat related typically pulls a lot. So I'm going to leave it on for just a few minutes, and then we'll see how far it drains the battery. Let's give it 5 minutes. So right now we are at 3:24. So at 3:29, we'll come back. Okay, so it has now been 5 minutes and we lost 4% of the battery in 5 minutes time. Now, that's actually not terrible. It might sound like it's not a great thing because it's only 5 minutes. But in my tiny little van, I don't usually run this heater for more than 5 or 6 minutes at a time anyway. And normally when I've been plugging it in, it's pulling about 600 watts. So the way that it regulates through this, for some reason, is much different than it is in other power stations. And it's not even putting a dent in it hardly. So I could still go at this rate for 3.5 continuous hours of using this heater right here. So that's pretty awesome. But there's a couple other things that I do want to test out on this just to see kind of how they pull. Okay, next up I have this old hair dryer that I mostly use for crafting these days. and at the same time, it pulls a lot of watts. So normally I can't carry this with me because my power station, it just takes too much power to keep going. And so it doesn't get to go with me usually, but let's see if it can be run by the power station here. So again, it's at 95%. And as of right now, if it were to just stay like this, doing absolutely nothing, it could run for 34 more hours. However, let's see what this does. Again, just a household hair dryer, and I'm about to turn it on to low first and see what it does. Okay, it does turn on. Okay, and we just ran it for a couple seconds there just to see if it would. It was pulling about 300 watts. So again, super, super nice. This same hair dryer I've tried on my other power station and it pulled about 500 watts. So I'm not sure why there is a difference between every single thing I plug into this power station. It's like it reduces the amount that it needs. I don't know why. So now we're going to turn it on to high and see what happens. There it is. As you can see, it got up to like 1200 watts that it was pulling. And so on high, which would be the ideal setting for drying your hair the fastest, it will in fact power this, which says a lot because my other power stations will not even turn this guy on in high. So that is a big, huge positive. And maybe a reason for me to get a new hair dryer because this one clearly cannot come with me. But it is good to note that in doing that and running it for about a minute, we only lost 1% even at 1200 watts being pulled. Okay, so now something I have never been able to run and I want to see if I can. I do not personally possess a microwave in my van. However, I know a lot of you guys have expressed that you do and you want a power station that can power it. So can this guy right here power the microwave? We're about to find out. I'm just going to put it on for like 30 seconds and see what happens. Cross your fingers, guys. This could be interesting. Let me put something in it though, because you're never supposed to run your microwave without something in it. Okay, so on this microwave, we just hit this button right here, but I want to, as we hit that button, go to the display here to see what happens. It actually turned it on. You can see it's doing the countdown. You can see that it is actually taking watts. Right here, it's up to 1,000. This will run a microwave for a short time at least. Oh my goodness, this is impressive. Now you do see the number here is dropping pretty rapidly. However, we could run the microwave consistently, according to this, for 1.2 hours, which is insane. We made it all the way through the 30-second cycle. That is something I have not been able to do on a power station that I have tried here on the channel yet. Just for good measure, we're going to go ahead and finish this off for a minute, also using the power station just to see how long it drops it. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Okay, so it just ended and it was in there for 1 minute. We dropped down to 91% in that time. And after it's finished, what it does is the little fan starts kicking on and it just kind of brings it back down to a regulated space. And then we're good to go. So what we made in the microwave is now ready to be consumed. What? Okay, so this is my last test that I think I'm gonna be doing today of another household item. We have a toaster. This is something else I've never been able to have on the road with me because again, it just draws a lot of power. So if this can run off of this, that would be amazing. So again, we just plug it in right here. And then after we do, we're going to push this down, turn it on, and see what happens. It starts pulling immediately. We're starting to climb a little bit more. And as you can see, it's starting to heat up in there. I can definitely feel the heat. But this actually has a lower pull than the microwave did. And it actually has a lower pull than the high hairdryer did also. So this is definitely also going to work. This power station is so cool because, again, I've never been able to run these things while on the road, so I've never had reason to test them. But now, oh my goodness, I can run them, and that is awesome. So we'll have some toast in just a few minutes thanks to this guy. Okay, sure enough, it popped out. We have toast. This is nice and toasty on a lighter setting because I don't like burnt toast. And so, yeah, a toaster will run off of this power station. Now, I think that since we did all of those things and it's only at 89%, what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and try to power it again to see if it still does that whenever we get to that 90 percentile. But all in all, I'm very impressed with this guy. It does some things that I've never been able to do with a power station. And for all of you who've been looking for something bigger, you can make toast with this, guys. You can make toast in a toaster, like a real toaster. That's kind of crazy. Okay, so I have it plugged back in and it was at 89%. Earlier we noticed at 79 to 80% it did that cycling thing. And then at 89 to 90% it again did the cycling thing. Well, as soon as I plugged it in, sure enough, it started doing the cycling thing because it was at 89%. So maybe it's just that like last little bit, I don't know. Again, we're gonna wait to see if they do in fact reach out to us within the next 72 hours before this video goes up. So I'll keep you posted. Otherwise, I'll follow up in the future after I've been using it a bit more. But this thing is kind of cool, guys. And I'm super excited that we're going to be using this on some of our upcoming adventures. I think it's going to be super handy, and it definitely has a lot of power. A lot of power. So if you've enjoyed today's video, remember guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. And sometimes power can get us to that good time a little bit quicker. Till next time, guys. Bye.